Corporate Finance Excel Practice Problem. In this presentation, we will work a practice problem in Excel related to the creation of an income statement. This time, we're going to have a couple different income statements, a couple short problems we will be working with. One will have an expense as an unknown. In other words, like in many book problems, we'll have to back into the expense that is unknown as opposed to calculating the net income, the bottom line number. We'll also do some income statements where we will be doing tax calculations and interest calculations using percentages. Get ready, because it's time to take a stance with corporate finance. Here we are in Excel. We have 3 tabs in this Excel worksheet, or there may be 6 in your Excel worksheets, but we'll be working 3 separate problems. So we're going to be working the practice tabs. You may have an answer tab as well, one with the answer to it. The second tab with a formatted worksheet such as this, where we can work the problem within it. So we're going to be working income statements, 3 different types, 3 different income statements with a couple different factors to them as we go through them. We're going to do this a little bit faster since we've been working with the income statements. We're just adding a couple new little tweaks on each of these practice problems. So we have the information on the left, which says make an income statement. We have some of the accounts that are going to be used to do it. In this particular problem, we have the problem is that we don't know the expense here. So we know the bottom line, which is going to be operating profit for us here. We don't know the depreciation expense. It's the only expense we don't know, therefore the only unknown in basically an algebraic equation, so we can figure that out. Now, whenever this is the case, then what you don't want to try to start doing is figuring out different equations, like how would I just memorize an equation to calculate depreciation expense if I had all these other items known? No, you just want to do the standard income statement here, plug in the unknown to that calculation, and then back into the unknown, right? You don't want to think of, in other words, different equations or try to rework the algebraic equation in your head so that you're actually memorizing multiple equations. Just keep one equation and then just plug in that unknown, of course. So I'm going to just do this as an income statement. You can write it out a couple different ways if you were given a problem such as this on a test question, but typically I would just write out the income statement, right? So I would have, okay, we got revenue or sales is going to be the top line. That's going to be the 900,000. We've got the cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is going to be, I'm doing this fairly quickly here but you want to practice the good practice of using Excel to put this information into Excel. So then we have the cost of goods sold is going to be equal to the 530,000. We put an underline under that. You could do that by going to the Home tab, Font Group, and then using the underline button. Now the next item we have is gross profit. Note that if you're working like a multiple choice question and you were just looking for this unknown, you may not even put in the gross profit. You just might put in all the expenses. You might not, because the subcategory might just add a level of confusion you don't need. It would be a little bit faster not to have it there, because remember, the gross profit is just a step along the way to get to that bottom line number, net income. So we'll put it in here. We're going to say, okay, gross profit, and that's going to be equal to, we're going to go up twice to the 900 minus up once to the 530,000. That gives us the 370,000. Then we're going to pick up the selling and admin. That's the one we know. And that's going to be equal to the 60,000. And then the one we don't know is the depreciation. So I'm going to just type it in there. Depreciation expense. And that's the unknown. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to make it yellow. I'm going to say that's yellow. That's the unknown. The unknown is yellow. What we do know then is going to be the bottom line, which is the operating profit, that being then equal to this 103,000. So then we basically have the calculation here of, and we can write this out different ways if you want to. Now you might want to write it out as an algebraic equation, which would be 370,000 minus the 60,000 minus X, the unknown, is going to be equal to the 103,000. And now you've got your algebraic equation, and you can solve for X here to figure that out. Now, I do want to point out a tool in Excel that you can use to kind of back into some kind of number like this. I think is useful for practice, and you can't use it on tests, obviously. You'd have to do the algebra here. But it's useful to use this tool when you're trying to back into something or figure something out, or if you have a complex formula. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the formula that I would want to put here to the 103,000. I know it needs to be 103,000. I know I'm missing this number, But I'm going to put the formula here. I'm going to say this is going to be equal to up, the 370,000 minus up to the 60,000 minus up to the depreciation on, so that's E4 minus E5 minus E6. So that's going to be equal to then the 310, we know it should be 103,000. We're going to use a function in Excel to basically say, hey, Excel, just test every number until you get the number in this yellow cell that will result in this ending balance being what we know it should be, the 103,000. So let's do that. We're going to say, all right, what if I go to the data up top, and I'm going to go to the forecasts. I'm going to go to the what if analysis, and we're going to go to, it's called goal seek. And then notice I'm not on the cell here. I'm just out here somewhere else. And what I'm going to do is say, okay, the set cell is the one that I want to set. That's going to be this cell. I want that 310,000 to go to the to value, which is going to be this 103. So the 310 needs to go to the 103. I'm just going to type it in there, 103,000. And then I want you to do that, Excel, by testing out what can go in this cell, because this cell is included in the formula to create that 310,000. Therefore, just find out whatever needs to be in this cell through trial and error to figure that last cell to be what it should be, 103,000. So it's just going to do a trial and error type of calculation. And there it comes out to the 207, which you could double check by saying, okay, the 370 minus the 60 minus the 207 is the 103. Now note, you might also do a calculation like this if you were to do this in a quick kind of problem, and they just gave you this unknown for the depreciation. You might not calculate the gross profit, because the gross profit is just another step. It's another, if you want to save time, you could do this calculation. You can just say, all right, this is going to be equal to revenue is going to be the top line, then cost of goods sold, which is really just another expense. So I might just do a single step income statement. Instead of having an underline here and doing the gross profit, in other words, I'm just going to say remove the underline. Oh, did I remove the other? Remove the underline, and then just continue on with the expenses that we know. Selling and admin expense we know, and then we don't know the depreciation. I'm doing this quickly because it's just a recap. And that's going to be the unknown then. So we're going to say that's the unknown, making it yellow. And then we have the operating profit. The operating profit here, which we know is going to be the 103,000. So now this last cell, we don't have it. We skipped a line. And now if you do your algebraic equation again, I'm just going to, this item will be blue on your worksheet. Then you could say, all right, so if you wrote that out algebraically, and you could just simply go right to the algebraic equation if you can see that. I think a lot of people will start off being easier to write it vertically and then write the algebraic equation, because you're used to seeing the income statement vertically written. Once vertically written, then you could say, okay, now let me write it out algebraically with the yellow as the unknown. 900,000 minus the 530,000 minus the 60,000 minus the minus x is going to be equal to, x being the unknown, 103,000. So I won't do the math there, but you can do the math. I'll do the goal seek again here so you can see it on goal seek. To do that, I'm going to do the calculation here. This will be equal to this number minus this number minus this number minus this number. So E12 minus E13 minus E14 minus E15. Then I'm going to use goal seek going on some other cell. I'm going to go to the data tab up top. We're going to go to the forecast, what if analysis, goal seek. And then I'm going to say, all right, I'd like to know, I want to set this cell to be what we know it should be, which is up top somewhere. And I can't scroll up because it won't let me go up there. Oh, it's right here. It's going to be the 103. 103,000 by changing the yellow cell. So change the yellow cell using trial and error in this one. And once again, we'll get to that 107,000. We could put an underline here if we want to by going to the Home tab, Font Group, Underline. We could do the same up top, 207. Let's underline it, Home tab, Font Group, Underline. Let's do the next one. We're going to go to the second tab here. So we got the second tab. There might be multiple tabs on yours, but we're doing the practice second tab. So we're just going to simply make another income statement here. The difference on this income statement is that we have a calculation for the rate of interest and then a calculation for the tax rate. So we'll do some minor calculations as we work through this. Okay, so we're going to start up top once again. Oh, we also have units sold and unit price. So we'll have to do a calculation for the first item, which is going to be revenue and sales as well. So I'm going to start off here. We're going to start off same thing, revenue or sales. And this time we sold units. So we sold units of inventory. So now we got inventory units that we sold and the price that we sold them for. So that means that the sales price is going to be the multiple of those two because we sell them for the fixed amount and we sold that many units. Therefore, I'm going to do a calculation here, which will be equal to, we're going to scroll over to that 2,100 times, then we're going to pick up the 275 units. So B3 times B4 is going to be our sales of 577.5. Then we have the cost, the unit cost, which is 245. So those 2,100 units had a retail price or sales price that we sold them for 275, but we purchased them for 245. So the cost of the sales that we're selling, cost of goods sold, that's going to be our major expense, not representing cash going out right now because cash went out in the past when we bought these units, which we are now selling. We are consuming now or using or expending inventory, which is a type of expense. We're consuming the asset of inventory in order to help us generate that revenue. Let's do a similar calculation here, which will be equal to the 2,100 times the 245 units. So there we have that. So that gives us the 415.5. Notice the relationship between the unit price and the cost is one of the most important relationships if we sell things, if we sell inventory. So that's going to give us our gross profit calculation then. So we're going to pick up then our gross profit. We're going to do our subtraction. This will be equal to the 5775 minus, I'm going to say up once on the keyboard. So equals E2 minus E3. That gives us the 63,000. I'm then going to put an underline up above on the 514,500 by going to the Home tab, Font Group, Underline. Then we want to pick up the selling and admin as we have seen in the past. I'm just going to simply say equals. Pick up the selling and admin in the name, and then equals, and pick up the 13,000 amount for the selling and admin. Same thing for the depreciation, equals the depreciation expense. And then I'm going to go back on over here and say equals the 15,400 depreciation. Note that we've been working with basically these two expense accounts. We could have more expense accounts, of course. There could be a lot of expense accounts, but the idea of the expense accounts is that they're going to be grouped in the same fashion in terms of the operating income. So that's going to give us the operating profit. So we'll say now we have the operating profit, which is going to be equal to, I'm going to say the 63,000 minus up 2 to the 13,000 minus up 1 to the 15,004. That gives us the 34,600. I'm going to put an underline in the 15,400 cell by going to the Home tab, Font Group, and Underline. I'm then going to recalculate it over here so we could see it using the sum function as well. Equals up to that 63,000 minus the sum of SUM. Shift 9, up arrow, left arrow, holding down shift, up arrow once, holding down shift, and closing it up. Or you can just basically use the mouse to do it. But if you want to start using the keyboard, I'm just, naming the keyboard. But sum function, F5 colon F6. Get used to that sum function. If you're not used to it, practice it, look it up, do it. That's a major function. So we'll just be using that all the time. And so sum function. And then we have the interest expense. We're going to put down here as we've seen in the past. So I'm just going to call it interest expense. And we'll have a calculation of it at this point because we have the interest rate of the 16% and we borrowed 106,000. So we're going to say the 16% is our yearly interest rate. We're just going to calculate it for the entire year. The loan has been out for the entire year. We're going to say, so the 106,000 times the 16%, or the B8 times B9. B8 times B9. Then I'm going to put an underline under this one by going to the Home tab, Font Group, and Underline. Then we're going to get the earnings before taxes. Earnings before taxes then is going to be equal to up twice to the 34,600 minus up once to the 16,960. That gives us the 17,640. Then we're going to pick up the taxes, tax calculation, which we're now going to calculate based on this 30%. So we're going to say the taxes will change based on the difference or the change in our earnings. What we've done is we've calculated what we think the tax rate will be based on our book earnings, right? And so we won't get into that calculation here. It's usually kind of more of an advanced accounting topic in terms of how exactly to get to this rate. So we do have we have instructional videos on that, but right here, we're going to assume we have that rate and then just simply take equal to the 17,640 times the 30%. That's going to give us our 5,292. I'm going to put an underline on that one by going to the Home tab, Font, and Underline. That's going to give us our earning after taxes. Finally, bottom line, pretty much the net income number. Net income after taxes equal to up twice, 17,640 minus up once the taxes, giving us then 12,348. Let's put the double underline on that one, selecting that cell, Home tab, Font Group, drop down for the underline. We want the double underline this time because that's like the super important bottom line number that we want to put super emphases on. Okay, so now we're going to go do this one more time. We're going to go to the third tab now. Third tab, similar type of calculation. This time we're going to have another percent calculation for cost of goods sold and the selling and admin, and we'll calculate the tax rate again. So we're going to say, all right, let's start this out again. We start off with the revenue and sales, just like we always do every time. And then we're going to be picking up the amount, which is going to be $1,600,000. We'll pick up then the cost of goods sold, which I'm going to type in there because now they're saying it's going to be a percentage of the sales. That makes sense if we sell, all of our sales are inventory, right? Because we sell, the markup would be whatever the markup is. So you would think the relationship between revenue and cost of goods sold would be constant, given the fact that there's a constant difference, if there were a constant difference between the sales price and the cost of the things that we are selling. So we're going to say, all right, then this is going to be equal to the 1,600,000 sales times 75%, because the cost of the things we sell are 75% of the sales price. And that's going to give us the 1,200,000. I'm then going to underline that. Home tab, Font Group, drop down for the underline to go back to the single underline instead of the double that we had last time. We'll get back to the double underline when we get to the bottom of this one for the bottom line net income number. This is going to be our gross profit number, not to be confused with net income right here, which is going to be equal to the revenue minus the cost of goods sold, or E2 minus E3. Then we're going to be picking up our selling and admin expense. I'm going to say equals selling and admin. It says it's going to be 11% of the sales. Now, that's not quite as common, but you can see that might be common in some cases where you have commission, right? If someone sells on commission, especially their selling expenses might, tie directly then to the sales because their commission rate would be fixed. So you might see something common with the commission, not so much all the time for admin, but we're just going to practice that kind of percentage here. We're going to be picking up the 1,600,000 times the 11%. So there we have that. We're now going to pick up the depreciation again, which we have at a fixed amount of the 15,000. This is going to be equal to the 15,000. Let's put our underline on this cell by going to the Home tab, Font Group, and then underlining it. That will then give us the operating profit. So next line will be the operating profit, which will be equal to up 3, the 400,000 minus up 2, the 176 minus up 1, the 15, or E4 minus E5 minus E6. That's going to give us the 209,000. You can also calculate that using the sum function, which I do recommend practicing, equals the 400,000 minus the sum, embedding the sum function, Shift 9. I'm telling you the keystrokes here. Up once, up or left once, holding down Shift, up once, closing up the brackets, Shift 0. You don't have to do it that way, but you can use the mouse to do it. But, just after a while, you might want to start using the keystrokes. It is faster. It's funner, too. Faster and funner. Can't beat that. So then we're going to be picking up the interest expense, $17,000. Going to put an underline under that by going to the Home tab font group and underline. And then we're going to have our earnings before taxes. That's going to give us our earnings before the taxes, which will be equal to, up twice, to 109,000 minus the 17,000 or the 192,000. Then we're going to calculate our taxes, which once again, we're given the tax rate on. So we're simply going to say equals the 192 minus the tax rate and enter. Now, again, if you work with taxes, you're going to say that's too easy because, again, the taxes are based on taxable income and there could be credits and all this other stuff that's happening. Just remember, for corporations will typically then do a calculation in order to figure what the rate should be, basically based on the net book income. So we'll have to do a projection to kind of figure out a rate that we can then apply out to basically the book income. So it's not like we're applying out just the this used to bother me. This is why I'm telling you. It's not like we're just using the tax rate that would be applied to taxable income as if it's the same thing for the book income here. We would have to figure out what the appropriate rate would be that we can apply to the book income that would approximate the rate that would be done if the actual tax return would have been done, which we would do, and that's more of an advanced topic that we might talk about later, but we do have courses in advanced financial accounting on that. So this is going to be equal to the 192,000 times the taxes. Whoops, hold on a second. Undo, not times. This equals the 192,000 minus the taxes we calculated is going to be the 134,400. Let's put an underline on the 57,600 by going to the Home tab, font group, underline. We'll put a double underline on the earnings after taxes, basically the bottom line number, the net income number, the really important number that we put the double emphasis on. Home tab, font group, drop down, double underline. So that's it.